Biodiversity is declining. Currently, worldwide there are 157,100 species on the IUCN Red List, 44,000 threatened with extinction. In Sub-Saharan Africa, animals like the black rhino, the African elephant or Rothschild's giraffe are in danger of extinction. For example, between 1960 and 1995, the black rhino population suffered huge losses due to poaching. Only 2% survived. Therefore, conservation areas are being established in order to, among others, counteract the extinction of species. But what exactly is meant by a conservation area? A conservation area is a clearly defined geographical space, recognized, dedicated and managed through legal or other effective means to achieve the long-term conservation of nature with associated ecosystem services and cultural values. In the late 19th century, colonial governments implemented wildlife conservation laws and established game reserves. These were influenced by European aristocratic hunters to preserve wildlife populations for elite sports hunting. In these areas, trophy hunting was permitted for a fee, but restricted access for African populations by the threat of punishment. Nowadays in Africa, there are more than 7,000 conservation areas which cover 15% of its terrestrial area. It seems likely that these will increase in the future. In 2022, the UN Biodiversity Conference saw 196 countries commit to protecting 30% of land and sea by 2030. Within those conservation areas, there are multiple success stories on growing wildlife populations. In the last decade, elephant populations in Kenya have increased by 25% thanks to robust anti-poaching measures and habitat protection initiatives. Nevertheless, recent events have shown that the success of protected areas may have adverse consequences for local communities. For instance, growing populations of elephants repeatedly lead to fatal clashes between humans and the animals. What is more, to prevent illegal poaching, rangers are heavily armed. The so-called green militarization has caused multiple human rights violations in the past. In Botswana, protected areas enforce shoot-to-kill policies, giving their rangers permission to use deadly force against poachers. Furthermore, the distribution of land rights is highly controversial. Many of those conservation areas overlap with indigenous territories. Restrictive policies limit people's access to their ancestral lands. The only thing that has displaced more people around the world than war is wildlife conservation. International development and conservation organizations have been accused of supporting exactions against human rights in wildlife protection projects. As a reaction, important actors such as GIZ or WWF published specific guidelines for conservation projects to prevent such issues in the future. Germany stands out as one of the largest public donors supporting protected areas in countries in the Global South. The largest share of spending on biodiversity comes from the BMZ, which increased the budget from 400 million to 600 million euros in 2021. Germany is providing support to over 500 protected areas globally. What are the economic, social as well as environmental costs and benefits of current conservation strategies? What role does German international cooperation play in reinforcing or preventing local land use conflicts? How can ownership over nature conservation be encouraged among the indigenous peoples and local communities? And now, let's move on to the discussion.